Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. My sister from a young age has had only one person to rely on, and that person was me. We come from a broken family with one parent that was only around till I was 5 and the other who's stuck in a cycle of addiction. Because of our situation, I grew up very quickly and shielded her from as much as I could. She obviously was aware of what was going on, but she was not in the crosschair. I started with stealing from our mother to make sure we had food and bills were paid. I got a part-time job at 13 because we couldn't rely on our mother when I graduated. I immediately got 2 jobs and we moved out. I had to push my sister through high school. She wasn't an easy teen for obvious reasons, on top of going month to month trying to get as much money together to pay our bills. At 19, she finally graduated after being held back a year. She changed her tune a lot and she started working as well and had her own place when she was 21. I finally got a shot at doing something for myself and got a degree. As a result, I got a much better job, but unfortunately, that was right before the pandemic hit, so I pretty much went from hired to fired as I was a new hire. Now, the reason I'm saying all of this is not to pat myself on the back, but to stress why my reaction is the way it is. I was out of work on the brink of losing my apartment and only had one person who I expected I could turn to, my sister. She was recently married and still lives obviously with her husband. So I asked if I could stay with her a few weeks, at most a few months until I got a new job, and it was a no. I was taken aback, but it remained to be a no. A week or two later, I was kicked out of my apartment. I asked again and it was a no. At this point, I'm homeless and the only reason I didn't end up sleeping on the damn street was because I could crash at a few friends until I got a temporary job. I rented a room with a bunch of roommates for a while, eventually got a job in my field again, and now I'm doing fine. That said, I haven't spoken to my sister since. She has called, messaged, banged on my door, sent crying voice messages, apologized dozens of times, tried to explain herself, tried going to my job, tried going to friends, everything. I haven't said a word to her for over a year now. She recently had a child and she is still desperately trying to reach out. She claims her husband refused to let me stay. He even reached out several times to beg me to reach out. But to me, the one time I need her, she basically tells me to F myself. I feel like it was the last push I needed to just end that chapter of my life. I feel bad, but just not bad enough, I guess. Even my friends and my girlfriend are on my case that I should forgive her and that they understood it at first, but now think I'm being an a-hole. What would you guys do? Tell your friends and girlfriend that only you get to decide when you're ready to talk to your sister. That is not their place nor their business to try to force you into an interaction that you aren't emotionally ready for. And if they care about you at all, they will shut the F up and let you do things when you're ready to do them. I'd send your sister one message telling her that you aren't closing the door on ever having a relationship with her, but you need her to back off and give you the time and space to work through your feelings of betrayal. That you will reach out to her when and if you're ready to, and not a minute before, and the more she pushes, the less you want to be around her. Then, get into counseling to work through your feelings, decide how much of a relationship with her you can handle emotionally, and then proceed from there. If your girlfriend and friends keep pushing you, then they are only doing it for their own selfish purposes rather than out of concern for you, and you need to shut them down hard. This is good advice. Some skeptical part of me is wondering why the sister wants original poster back in her life now that she has a baby. Babysitting, defraying baby expenses, wanting original poster to play the happy, generous uncle. If it was really guilt, she would have reached out earlier, and it seems like your sister only reached out once original poster was back on his feet. Edited to add, it could be that all of original poster's sacrifices have led to her growing up to be very self-centered because all along she's never had to think of someone else. You gave up your entire childhood to help raise your sister. You've given her enough. Do what feels right for you because you sure as hell don't owe your sister peace of mind, and that's what she's seeking. If she was truly sorry, she would have expressed that and left it at that. The fact that she's constantly hounding you along with her husband means that she wants something from you. Whether it's you saying it's okay or something else? You don't owe her that. Explain this to the people in your life and either they get it or they're next. You're not being an a-hole at all. You're finally looking out for yourself, something no one has done for you before. I agree with other commenters. I would tell everyone who is pressuring you to back off and drop the topic. As for your sister, I would send her one message. I took care of you at a great personal sacrifice to myself from a very early age. I sacrificed and always thought we had each other's backs. The one time I needed you, you were willing to let me be homeless rather than help me. There's no going back from that. There's no forgiving you and moving on. Our relationship has forever changed. I have no idea if sometime in the future I'll be in a place to want any kind of a relationship with you. But for now, I'm focusing on myself for the first time in my life. I'd appreciate it if you respected the fact that I don't want to talk to you and give me space. I will reach out if or when I want to. As for us, do not come to me if you need anything. That ship has sailed. Then get into therapy. You have a lot of stuff to work through and that's okay. Update. I, 29 male, can't seem to forgive my sister, 26 female, after she completely bailed on me when I was on the brink of being homeless. So, I had a huge amount of people inquiring as to what ended up happening and asking me to make an update should anything happen, and while I wasn't sure if I would or even should, I eventually decided to go ahead and do it. Let me start by apologizing to the people who commented on my post. I made my post and it didn't seem to gain much traction at all, so I more or less stopped looking at it for about a day, I think only to figure out the next day that I had gotten a lot of comments. Unfortunately, when I decided to reply to a lot of the comments I had been reading, I realized that this subreddit locks the comments after a certain amount of comments had been made or karma has been reached. I'm afraid I was not aware of this admittedly very odd rule, so that's on me. I did end up reading most comments and would like to thank everyone for offering advice or just saying something supportive. First, to answer some of the couple questions that I was unable to answer, along with addressing some incorrect comments in the previous post yet I saw asked quite a few times. 1. The first few no's were without reasonable explanation. I was not aware of her given reason that her husband was not okay with it until later. 2. She did not know she was pregnant when she declined, and most of it happened before she would have even been pregnant in the first place. I mean, most of this took place over a year ago. I even put that in the post, so I'm not sure how the math would even work. 3. I'm not an anti-vaxxer or dirty or something. There were quite a few comments that theorized this would be the case for her refusal. I got my second vaccination shot the moment I could get them, and well, my personal hygiene is not exactly anyone's business. I shower once a day and my apartment is spotless. 4. A lot of advice and comments seem to be from the perspective of functional families with a functional family structure. That is not the case here. The primary reason I'm so gutted about this entire situation is exactly that. This isn't a case of, well, I don't want my cousin to stay in my house, he can stay somewhere else. This is a case of me having sacrificed my entire youth and a significant portion of my early adult life for someone that I played no part in creating or having any parental responsibility for. And the first and only time I ever asked her to do something for me as the only person I could reasonable fall back on, and her not doing that, that's more than a familial spat. That is straight up betrayal. That's also an answer to the people that say she owes me nothing because I chose to be a parent. Anyway, with that out of the way, I decided to follow some advice given by several people. I told my girlfriend and the friends who involved themselves or were involved by my sister to back off or to lose my number. They do not understand my perspective and they likely never will, and I need to get that through my head as I have a tendency to talk about my life as if it's a standard. But it is a standard only to me. Luckily, most people don't go through any of that. I obviously had a longer face-to-face conversation with my girlfriend and with individual close friends, but it boils down to that. One friend kept pestering me about it and I ended up dropping him as a friend, but my girlfriend was apologetic and most friends were either apologetic or said they'd drop it. I ended up writing a long email to my sister, and while I will not copy and paste the entire thing here as it contains a lot of personal information and far more horrible stuff that I'm unsure will ever be allowed on a sub like this, it is more or or less boiled down to me explaining to her how her refusal to take me in for what ended up being a few weeks made me feel, and I detailed a long list of things I'd done to take care of her. I ended up finishing my email telling her that even if I take her version of the story as the truth and her husband is the cause of me not being allowed to stay there, that is entirely irrelevant to me because that just means she didn't fight for me at all. I also informed her that I have no interest in meeting her child as of this moment, and I have no interest in reconnecting with her, and if that changes in the future, I will be the one to contact her. I told her to let this be a lesson to her as it has been a painful lesson to me. Boiled down, I have decided to move on and keep the door on the tiniest of the cracks. She has responded a lot since the moment. She's unable to accept it, but I have not responded since. I don't have anything else to tell you, I'm afraid, and since the sub only allows one update, well, it is what it is. Again, thank you all for taking the time to respond to my post, and thank you all for your insightful replies. I'm one of the original commenters. You did what I'd have done in the situation. She turned her back on you one time she could have shined and showed you how much she appreciated what you did for her, that she had your back as you've had hers. Her actions, or lack thereof, said everything there was to say. I don't have any more comments other than good luck and Godspeed. Yep. Nobody needs fair weather family and fair weather friends who would throw you to the wolves and wilderness the moment it inconveniences them. It's not hard to have a little empathy and let someone you know and trust sleep on your couch when they have nowhere to go. It costs very little to do that. Good luck, original poster. Stay strong. I remember this post, and how you handled it is exactly how I believe I mentioned. Good on you for setting boundaries. Good on you for being clear of what you will or won't accept. Good on you for being clear about your feelings to your sister. You are right. Even if you accept it's my husband's fault, it still means she did not push back at all. I said this in my last comment, but she is only contacting me because it was convenient for her. If she's still contacting you by phone, block her. If she's still emailing, send the emails to a folder so they bypass your inbox. Best of luck, original poster. Wow, I totally get you would feel not only betrayed but also extremely hurt. I think it's crazy that people would sum it up that your sister doesn't owe you anything. You expect your sibling to be there for you, period. My advice is to seek therapy to help you get over the things that happen in the past. You are a traumatized person and you need to navigate your feelings and should do it with a professional. That is if you haven't already. Had the situation been different, I might imagine I would have reacted differently. But since the situation is what it is, I guess I do more or less feel like she owes me to an extent. But as you said, I've got to view that in the whole picture. I did not owe her so much in my life and energy either, but I still did it. That's how she should have been towards me. Next story. I, 28 female, have not spoken to my mom, 53 female, since she cheated on my dad, 55 male, with a friend of his, 55 male. I think he's the same age as my dad. I was 19 when she cheated. Now she's reached out. So yeah, my mom cheated on my dad when I was 19 with a good friend of his. It almost broke my father, given that it was a good friend of his that she cheated on him with. My dad struggled with depression and trust issues for a long time and even cut out his entire social circle of friends. He just locked himself away. I took care of my dad, and he, after therapy, has gotten better and is doing okay now. The last thing I said to my mom was that she was finished with me. So it's been around 8 years since I have spoken to my mom. She eventually married my dad's friend. She even had the gall to send me an invitation to the wedding. I honestly just remember the hell she put me and dad through and have no real interest in connecting with her whatsoever. She sent me a letter since I have her number blocked, and she is blocked on Facebook along with her husband. I almost wanted to tear it up and just throw it away, but decided to open and read it. Mom just wrote that she has missed a lot of my life and that she was sorry for what she put dad through and has tried to talk to me many times over the years. She asked me to please come to her place and talk, and she made it clear that her husband would not be there and it would just be the two of us talking. So struggling on what to do and feeling like I want to be stubborn like I have been for the last 8 years, where I pretended she did not exist. I also want to make it clear that my dad has never said a bad word about mom. All these years, he was just depressed and lost faith in his friends and stopped trusting people. The affair had lasted quite a while, right under his nose, with mom and his friend lying to him for many years. After therapy opened up and managed to deal with it, I just decided to cut my mom out of my life and move on without her, which was my way of dealing with it. The reason I'm considering meeting her is because we never actually had a conversation about it. I never gave her a chance to explain herself, and honestly, just curious to hear what she has to say. Just me airing some thoughts out and just can't seem to make up my mind on what to do. It's a tough situation to be in. I'm sorry for what you and your dad went through. If I were you, I would think hard about it before making any decision. I would try to figure out what the pros and cons of this potential meeting with your mother would be. Maybe now she's realized what she's done, but that doesn't mean you have to forgive her. The ball is in your court. If you want to meet and talk with her, go ahead. But if you don't, that's fine as well. You don't owe her anything. She may have been your mother, but after what she put you through, it's understandable. This is the best comment. You don't have to forgive your mother and you need to do what's best for you. But it is unhealthy to hold on to hate. Letting go of hate doesn't mean you have to forgive them and open your heart and trust them. But at the end of the day, you have to make that choice. I'm sorry you're even in that position. Take your time with the decision. Don't feel rushed one way or another. If your mom is wanting to reconnect, she can continue to wait patiently until you feel clarity. Given she's remarried and still with a fair partner, it's unlikely you could develop much or any connection with her alone. It's logical to assume she would want to incorporate a fair partner as well eventually. So if you want to meet and potentially reconnect, you might want to establish firm boundaries there indefinitely, so you can remove them as you see comfortable moving forward. It also might be a good idea to have a mature conversation with dad before you reach to your own decision. So he's fully informed, you hear his opinion, and then everything is out in the open whatever you decide. You're not alone being estranged from one or both parents. Some reconcile, most don't. A little advice, hear her out just once. If you end up staying estranged, you won't have not heard her out of your conscience. Whatever happens, you should agree to speak with her. The most important thing you do is not speak at her home. This is her turf. This is a powerful technique used to apply as much leverage as possible by holding the discussion in a place she naturally is dominant in. This is the exact reason why you should never hold negotiations with either a business partner or boss in their office. You're automatically at a disadvantage. Something very important, hear her out first. Do not share or speak of the impact her behavior has made upon you to her until after she has stated her part. This allows you to be in control of how the conversation proceeds going forward from that. This allows you, should you choose, to let her know that her statements will not be validated by you, and you sharing the impact will be your justification. This puts the ball in your court. Be aware, should you choose to stay estranged, this will probably cause mental distress later in life. Of course, the opposite direction is equally uncertain. Best of luck.